So, hey, Michael.
Hi.
Hey, so thank you for speaking with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So I really was hoping that we could talk a little bit about some of your life experiences, your experiences as a performer, and some of the people who you've encountered along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you start by telling me a little bit about where you're from, how you grew up.
Well, I'm Michael Fennimore. You already mentioned that. I grew up in Levittown, Long Island.
Great.
Back in 1951. And nice. It was the first big sprawling suburban community that was built in America. It was old man Levitt came in and built the town, and I remember he would plant trees, and he would paint the shutters and the doors, and he'd always make sure that the oil burner was working properly. He'd come around and always do that. And there'd be guys that come around and pick the mushrooms out of your lawn.
Yeah.
Throw the poison mushrooms in the bag. And it was great. It was like a lot of GIs after World War II. Made a home there, and of course all the kids were young. Remember one story? There was some nuns that lived in one of the houses because they didn't have a place for them to stay.
Right.
Because the old churches in them. It was interesting. A couple of funny stories. We were all Irish Catholics, and there was Donnie Kohlberg, the old Jewish kid. And every day we'd go out there and we'd play stickball. I don't know, do people play stickball anymore? I don't know. And we'd play stickball. You got the little, pinky rubber ball, and you get the broomstick, and you make the bases and go out in the street and hit it. And so we out there Sunday morning doing that. We all had to go to church. Well, Donnie didn't like to be alone, so Donnie would go to church with us. Donnie would go to catechism with us. Donnie was for confirmation. And the mother never knew that Donnie was becoming a Christian. So that was pretty funny. On the opposite end, though, one story where I'm always indebted to my sister was Abbey Lane was the elementary school that was near my house. It was about 3 or 4 blocks away, and I was probably in the 2nd or 1st grade, and everybody walked home, then. And I was coming home, and I hit the street. I just had to make a right-hand turn, and basically almost right at my house. And as I was turning, this car pulled up, and I could still see the car. And what the guy looked like. He had blonde hair, and he had like a yellow shirt and white shorts. And he asked me where No Lane was, and No Lane was basically just the block ahead. And I told him, I said, it's right there. Where? I said, right there. And he said, can you show me? And he opened up the car door. And as I was getting in, my sister happened to be walking right by, just grabbing right by the nape of the neck and pulled me away. And I probably wouldn't be here if my sister wasn't right there at that particular moment. So that was, didn't think about much of it then, but now it's really scary. But other things that happened in Levittown, a lot of it involved my sister. She was a bad girl back then. She went out with this one guy. His last name was Simcoe, and he had a motorcycle. My dad liked it because they drank beer together. But one day he said, "Hey, you want to ride on my motorcycle?" I said, "Sure," and I just so hard. And I remember he put me on, not on the seat. He put me on the big light on the motorcycle with my hands reaching back, holding onto the handlebars. And he's just flying down the street. And I was petrified. My finger was just about ready to, slide off the handlebars when he stopped. It was like, oh, God. Yeah, that was fun. Get me out of here. That scared the hell out of me. With my mom, my dad was very quiet. I only have maybe just a couple of memories of him actually taking us out to eat. He didn't go to amusement parks, didn't go to the beach or anything else like that. That was Mom doing all that work. My dad was very, I won't say secretive, but he was just he didn't reveal a lot. I know that his parents were, especially his mother, was pretty tough. He wanted to be a doctor or either a funeral director, and they said no because she said they're alcoholics. Well, he wound up drinking when he couldn't do what he wanted to do, but still he was a good provider, and if you ever needed something, he'd be there for you. But my mom on the other end, she was very gregarious. She took me to tap dancing lessons, which I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed tap dancing. But then she tried the accordion and the piano, and that really wasn't for me because I was kind of impatient. I was an impatient kid, when I was really young. Then my mother signed me up for Civil Air Patrol, knowing that I get air sick. Every Sunday, go on an airplane, and they put me up in this Navy. I was a Navy trainer airplane, and the guy was like dive bombing the surfers in Long Beach, and oh God, I'd get off and I'd be like this green, But my mother was like, try everything, and that's the way I kind of live now. I want to try everything, very adventurous. It was all because of her. My mom and I were very close. Very close. Well, after I got out of high school, I just wanted to travel, and I traveled cross country 4 times. After high school, I went to Europe with classmates. Went to England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and France. We had the gendarmes called on us in France. We had Scotland Yard called on us in Aberdeen. Not they were really bad, but some of the locals we didn't get along with. Of course, I fell out of a second-story window when I was in Ireland the day before we were supposed to fly home, because we started off at Dirty Nelly's outside of Limerick, and then Limerick won the soccer tournament, I guess, that year, and people were like walking down the street drinking, and I probably drank a pint of gin, peach gin. That's when I fell out the second-story window, but survived. Almost didn't survive the plane ride home, though. And then I went to a community college, Nassau Community College, and I graduated there in '76. I graduated high school in '69. Those are the missing years in between. And then I used to visit people up in New Hampshire every chance I had, and eventually brought my girlfriend up there. And then coming down, she wanted to stop at Boston. She wanted to go back down to New York, and her sister was here, and so that's how I got my little seed planted here in Boston. And I'd come up and visit all the time, and eventually I said, you know what? Hey, I like it up here. I think I'm going to stay. But before that, can we just stop here a second?
Yes.
Yeah. Probably the most vivid part of my life started back in the '60s, and of course, the Vietnam War was raging pretty heavily when I graduated high school, and I had friends that enlisted right after high school and didn't make it back, and I was about ready to go, and all of a sudden Nixon decided he wants to do this draft lottery So everyone was like, crouched around the TV set waiting for the numbers to come up, and my number was 181, and they didn't. And what they did is they pulled birthdays out, and the first birthday they pulled out, that's the first people to get drafted. So my number was fairly high, and I didn't get called, and I wasn't going to test fate, so I didn't go, thankfully. When I was in Ireland with the class, that's when the men landed on the moon. And so there I was sitting in the lobby in Ireland, with a little tiny TV set there, all crouched around watching the moon landing, and that was pretty exciting. And I was amazed. I was in Dublin, and when they landed on the moon, we had a meeting with Jack Lynch, who was Prime Minister at the time. It was about 2 days after the landing, and we went up to the office to see him. And he came out, and I'll never forget, I was sitting there, and the secretary opened up this door, and I see Jack Lynch. He's laying down in the couch in the other room. And so we're just sitting around the room. And he came out, picked up a chair, set it down, straddled it, and said, he packed his pipe, put it in there, lit it, and said, "Okay, shoot." So we're just asking him questions. And eventually I said, I was quite pleased and happy to see that they had a parade in Dublin for the landing on the moon, so they were really celebrating it. And he looked out the window and goes, "I'll be damned, they did very nice of them." And of course, before that, I always heard about this European custom about putting the shoes outside the door, and they polish the shoes and put them back. I don't know where the heck I ever heard that story, but I wish I didn't, because the next morning there were no shoes. And so there I am, all dressed up with my sneakers on, my little high tops. So, I like those shoes.
So Michael, talk a little bit about what some of your early interests in acting were. What was it initially that got you involved in wanting to work as an actor?
After high school, I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and was excited, to be accepted the first year. They took in about 365 students the first year, but they only asked about 65 back for the second year. And I don't know, to somebody like me, because I was asked back for the second year. And it was a great experience. One time we were rehearsing a show in the downstairs theater, and two ladies were in the back of the curtain, and some of the actors stuck his head to see who they were, and the director said to the actor, said, "Who's back there?" And he goes, "There's some two old biddies back there." And just as he said that, curtain parts, and in walks Helen Hayes. "Oh, hello, Miss Hayes." The old biddy. But she used to come and visit a lot, along with Lillian Gish. Used to come in to visit, so it was really nice meeting them. After graduating from the American Academy, I was living in Manhattan, and there was an audition backstage for this dinner theater show. And so I auditioned for it at the Paramount Hotel, and I was hired. So that was my first real acting job. And I had to get on the bus and take the bus down to Roanoke, Virginia, and they picked me up there. And it was the Barn Dinner Theater. They had this stage that came down from the ceiling, and we lived upstairs. And it was quite an experience. Let's just say I came of age when I was doing that show. Much later than a lot of my friends. But the experiences there were that was really, really exciting, and really kind of cemented my love for the theater. We took the show from Roanoke, Columbus, Ohio, and Birmingham, Alabama. And we were doing a show in Birmingham one time, and the show we were doing, I had to play sort of an anti-war kind of a character. And we had to go out for the reception line, and one woman came up to me and she says, she shook my hand, she goes, "You remind me of my grandson." So thank you very much. She said, "I disinherited him." Oh, thank you. I guess I did my job fairly well. In Columbus, Ohio, there was a robbery going on, and we knew about the robbery because guys came in and they were, like say it was a theater in the round, and each one had like a package, and apparently there were guns inside the packages. And because we had been tipped off, or the Pinkerton had been tipped off, they knew it wasn't going to work out, and so they just aborted the robbery. But that was pretty scary. Every time we heard somebody cough, we'd hit the deck. We think it was a gun going off. Then after dinner theater, then basically the real acting probably came here in Boston after I moved to Boston. Because I was a bartender in Manhattan. Once you bartend, I used to go to the Studio 54. A friend of mine was the VIP host. His name is it's Remy is what we called him, and he would also let Liza Minnelli in, well, basically kind of carrying Liza Minnelli in during the hours, and it was really something going to Studio 54. You walk into the bathroom, you came out a different person. The lights, the costumes, it was just, it's nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. And then of course you had Plato's Retreat at the Ansonia Hotel, which that was the epitome of debauchery in there. So I had to get out of there. And so Boston was a good place to be. Coming to Boston, the first thing I did in Boston was doing Gray Line tours. You'd pick up I'd be hawking tickets in the Boston Common for people to come and take the tour. So that was, it was a good job to have anyone to like do something else with your life, because you don't want to do that forever. And then I see the Hampshire House restaurant, the Bullenfinch pub. So I said, I got to get a job as a bartender. So I got a job as a barback at the Hampshire House. In 6 months, I was the manager. I don't know, liked me for some reason. But during that time also, I was working at the Public Theater in Boston. The Public Theater has a nice stage and it's built up really nice. Well, when I was working there, it was just the dirt and an old trailer, And for nighttime, people are basically with their flashlights and the car lights, to illuminate the acting area. Also, when I came up to visit my girlfriend, who is now my wife, I was going home on a Sunday, and I had a big beard and an Irish knit sweater on, and I'm going to the old Greyhound bus station, and some woman come up to me, stuck a microphone in my face, and said, "Why are you going Greyhound?" I went, best way to beat inflation. It was during the Jimmy Carter years when inflation was like about 21%. I said, "Okay, fine, thank you. Sign release," and she gave me $1. Oh, okay, cool. That was in December. In January, I was home and I got a call from this ad agency saying that they had, in the national search, they decided to use me in the national commercial for Greyhound. I said, "Oh, okay. What open up, and I was, at that particular moment, I was bartending in a bikie bar in Bethpage, Long Island. The pagans used to go there all the time. Tough crew. So I'm bartending, and all of a sudden Hollywood Squares comes on the TV, and all of a sudden they go, Fennimore, and I'm looking up, wow, there I am, So anyway, when I made it back to Boston, I kept on getting these residual checks, right, which were great, and I'm looking under Union, and I see S. I said, I wonder if I can join the union on that. So I looked up the Boston, the local SAG office, and I went down there with my residual check. I said, can I join the union? No. She said, oh, let me go see. Up at the file cabinet, took out my file, and goes, oh yeah. He says, you can join. Well, how much? 500. I said, sure, So I scraped up $500 and, and joined the union, which is like over $3,000 now to do that. And with the union, and all of a sudden, let me see, that would have been around 82, and 1983 or 1993, I became the president of local Screen Actors Guild. So and that was quite exciting. And I fly out to California every year. They have the national meetings there. And good friend was like Cliff Robertson. Him and I would always pal around together, and just to see how the union works, and the struggles that they have, the difference of opinions that they have, and the compromise that they come up with. So that was quite educational for me. I like that. But back in Boston, so becoming the manager in at the Hampshire House, and I was downstairs one day, and Ann Baker was a casting person. She was coming across the street, and